There is a moment in every trade story when the public version and the private version start to separate. When what a player says at a podium does not match what the general manager said the day before. That moment happened on June 23, 2026, at a press conference in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Brady Tkachuk, the former captain of the Ottawa Senators, sat down in front of the cameras as the newest member of the Florida Panthers, and almost immediately, something felt off. To understand why that moment mattered, you have to understand what Brady Tkachuk meant to Ottawa. He was the 5th overall pick in the 2018 NHL Draft. A physical, passionate, relentless power forward who the Senators built their entire identity around. He was not just a player. He was the face of a rebuild that Ottawa fans were told would eventually pay off. Over 8 seasons, he scored 213 goals, added 250 assists, and played 572 games, every single one of them in an Ottawa uniform. He was named captain. He wore the C. He became the kind of player fans believe in, the kind they put on jerseys, the kind they talk about when they talk about the future. And then on a Sunday evening in June, he was gone. Ottawa traded Brady Tkachuk to the Florida Panthers. In exchange, the Senators received the 9th and 25th overall picks in the 2026 NHL Draft, a second-round pick in 2027, and a conditional first-round pick in 2029. Ottawa wasted no time. Within days, they had already flipped that 9th overall pick to the San Jose Sharks for 3 NHL-ready players: William Eklund, Kasper Haltunen, and Brandon Svoboda. The rebuild, it seems, just changed direction. But here is where the story gets complicated. After any trade this seismic, the public wants to know one thing: why? General Manager Steve Staios gave his answer on Monday, the day after the deal. He was clear about it. Tkachuk had told the organization he had no plans to sign a long-term extension when his current deal expired. And according to Staios, Brady had requested a trade roughly 10 days after Ottawa's first-round playoff elimination. 10 days. That is a pretty specific number. So when Brady Tkachuk sat down at his introductory press conference in Fort Lauderdale on Tuesday, the room was paying close attention to every word. He said this decision was not easy. He said it took more time than what had been reported. He acknowledged that a lot had happened throughout his time in Ottawa, and he thanked the organization and its fans for molding him into the person he is today. It sounded gracious, it sounded measured, but it did not sound like the story Staios had told 24 hours earlier. NHL analyst Drew Livingstone was the first to say it out loud. Brady Tkachuk says this decision took more time than what had been reported. So he is calling his own general manager a liar. That is not a small accusation. That is the captain of a franchise contradicting the man who ran it. And it was not just Staios. Multiple insiders began reporting a version of events that painted a much more complicated picture of what had been happening inside the Ottawa Senators organization. NHL insider Renaud Lavoie went on record saying the pressure to move Tkachuk was not coming from above. It was coming from the locker room itself. Think about what that means. The captain of the Ottawa Senators had become a source of friction with his own teammates. Ottawa insider Bruce Garriock confirmed a similar story from a different angle. After the 2026 Winter Olympics in Milano Cortina, where Tkachuk played alongside his brother Matthew on Team USA and won gold, the noise around his future became impossible to ignore inside the organization. Garriock put it plainly. The Senators felt that the Brady Tkachuk noise had become a distraction. It had to be dealt with. And after the Olympics, Tkachuk came back to an Ottawa team that was swept out of the first round of the playoffs. He went pointless in that series. A captain who had led his team in goals all season, shut down when it mattered most. Garriock also reported that by the time the season ended, it was clear to the organization that Brady Tkachuk had no intention of signing long-term. It was not a question of when. It was a question of how much return they could get before everyone found out. Staios himself confirmed it. He said he could clearly see that Brady was a bit different than he was a year before. Here is what makes this whole thing so difficult to untangle. Back in late April, before any of this became public, Brady Tkachuk sat down at the Senators' year-end media availability, and he told reporters something very specific. He said he felt like he had never shown any signs of wanting out. He said he had been fully committed to the team and the city. He called the constant speculation frustrating. He denied everything. And then, 10 days later, he reportedly asked to be traded. That gap, those 10 days between denial and request, is the part the hockey world cannot stop talking about. Did he change his mind in a week and a half? Did the Olympics plant a seed that the playoff sweep turned to a decision? Or had the writing been on the wall for much longer? And the public denial was never quite the full truth. Nobody outside that building knows for certain, but the people who were inside that building are talking. And what they are saying does not match the press conference. If you are finding this story as wild as we do, hit subscribe. We cover the biggest stories in the NHL every single week. Now let us talk about where Brady Tkachuk is going. Because as messy as the Ottawa exit has been, the Florida arrival looks like something out of a sports movie. Brady Tkachuk will now play alongside his older brother Matthew Tkachuk. The two brothers, who spent years competing against each other in the NHL, will now share the same locker room, the same bench, the same ice. Matthew was acquired by the Panthers from the Calgary Flames back in 2022 in a blockbuster deal of his own. And since then, Florida has become one of the most dominant organizations in the league. They reached the Stanley Cup final 3 straight times. They won it twice. They are the defending champions. Brady was in the stands watching. He saw Matthew lift the cup. He saw what that feels like from 50 rows up, and apparently that was enough. The brothers also co-host a podcast together called Wingmen. They already have a creative and commercial relationship built entirely on their dynamic as siblings. Now they will build a professional one on the ice every single night. Panthers general manager Bill Zito put it simply at the press conference. He said Brady was the piece that fits into the puzzle, but also the perfect puzzle to fit around that piece. Brady echoed it himself. He said everything in Florida is done by committee, and everyone is a part of the puzzle. It sounds like a player who knows exactly where he wants to be, and a front office that could not wait to have him. But back in Ottawa, the fallout has not slowed down. Fans reacted with a combination of anger, confusion, and heartbreak. Some directed their frustration at Tkachuk directly, furious that the man who wore the C had apparently wanted out almost as soon as the season ended. TSN insider Jeff O'Neill never holds back, and he did not hold back here. He said he did not like the way Brady handled the public denials before the trade. But he also made a broader point that anyone who watches professional sports long enough eventually has to accept. There is no loyalty in professional hockey. Teams would move on from players without a second thought. Players do the same. It is a business, and everyone in it is playing a long game. That is probably true, but it does not make the Ottawa fanbase feel any better. Senators insider Jack Richardson reported that tensions between Tkachuk and the organization had been building for quite some time. The frustration was not a sudden snap decision. It was a slow build across an entire season, accelerated by the Olympics, capped off by a playoff sweep, and then detonated on a Sunday night in June. So what do we actually know? We know Brady Tkachuk is now a Florida Panther. We know he will play alongside his brother on a team built to win right now. We know the Ottawa Senators received significant draft capital and have already begun rebuilding with new assets. And we know the official version of how this trade happened does not quite line up on both sides. What we do not know is the full private story, the conversations that happened behind closed doors. The moment Brady Tkachuk actually decided Ottawa was done, whether that was during the Olympics, or after the sweep, or 10 days after the season ended, or somewhere in between, what we do know is this. Brady Tkachuk, who once told Ottawa reporters he had never shown any sign of wanting out, is now wearing number 7 in Florida, and the city he left behind is still asking the same question he never fully answered. Why in professional hockey that question often has no clean answer? Players and organizations outgrow each other. Contracts end. Brothers play for championship teams. And sometimes, the story that gets told at a podium is not the same one that happened in private. Brady Tkachuk will be fine. He is playing with his brother for a dynasty in the sun. Ottawa will rebuild. They already started. But the full truth of how this trade happened, that might stay buried for a while longer.